Last month my paycheck hit my account on Friday morning. By Sunday night, most of it was already gone. Not because I bought anything crazy. Not because I went on some shopping spree. It disappeared into rent, groceries, gas, student loans, utilities, and a random bank fee I didn't even notice until it was too late. And that's when it clicked. Every time money comes in, the system takes a bigger cut from people who have the least. Not through income taxes, through everyday life. If you're rich, life is cheaper. If you're broke, life is expensive. That's the poverty tax, and Gen Z is paying it nonstop. I'm a mid-20s corporate employee. I follow the traditional success path: degree, internships, full-time job. On paper, I'm doing what I was supposed to do. But in reality, I'm one car repair away from stress, one medical bill away from debt, one missed paycheck away from problems. And when you look at where the money actually goes, you realize the system isn't neutral. It actively charges poor people more for the same life. Let's start with the most basic thing: having money available when you need it. If you have savings, unexpected expenses are annoying. If you don't, they're expensive. Your tire blows out. A rich person pays cash. A broke person puts it on a credit card at 20% interest. That same $600 repair turns into $750, $800, sometimes more over time. Your body gets sick. A rich person pays the deductible and moves on. A broke person delays care, racks up bills, or goes into medical debt. The same problem costs dramatically more just because you didn't have money upfront. That's the poverty tax. Now look at housing. If you're wealthy, you buy a home and lock in a payment while building equity. If you're Gen Z and broke, you rent. And rent isn't just high. It rises every year, which means you never stabilize. You never build wealth. You just keep paying more for the same space. On top of that, cheaper apartments usually mean older buildings, worse insulation, higher utility bills, more maintenance problems. So you pay more for electricity, more for heating and cooling, more in random repairs your landlord doesn't cover. Again, same life, higher cost. Then there's transportation. Rich people can buy newer, reliable cars or live close to work. Gen Z usually can't afford either. So we buy older cars that break down more, higher repair costs, worse gas mileage, more time commuting, or we rely on underfunded public transportation that takes longer and limits job options. Either way, being broke makes getting to work more expensive. Now let's talk about food. If you have time, space, and money, you can cook healthy meals in bulk. If you're working long hours with long commutes in a tiny apartment, you end up buying whatever is cheap and fast. And cheap food in America usually means processed food, which leads to health problems, which leads to medical bills, which leads to debt. The poverty tax doesn't just hit your wallet once. It keeps compounding. And then there are fees, overdraft fees, late fees, interest charges, service fees, subscription price increases you can't absorb easily. Wealthy people avoid these entirely. They earn interest. Poor people pay penalties. Banks make billions every year almost entirely from people living paycheck to paycheck. And when you stack all of this together, it explains why Gen Z feels stuck. We're not just paying normal living costs. We're paying extra at every step for not already having money. Every repair costs more. Every loan costs more. Every delay costs more. Every mistake costs more. So even when we work full-time, the system keeps pulling us backward. It's like trying to climb a hill while someone keeps adding weight to your backpack. And the craziest part is people still say things like just budget better, just save more, just work harder. But you can't out-budget a system that charges you more for existing. This isn't about bad decisions. It's about structural costs built into poverty, because the poverty tax is everywhere: in housing, in healthcare, in transportation, in food, in debt. Gen Z isn't falling behind because we're lazy. We're falling behind because the system makes being broke more expensive than being rich. And in the next part, I'm going to break down exactly how much this hidden tax costs the average Gen Z worker every year, and why it quietly prevents us from ever getting ahead no matter how hard we try. Once you start seeing the poverty tax, you realize it isn't one big expense. It's 1,000 small ones that hit over and over again. And the scary part is how fast they add up. Let's put some real numbers on it. Take housing first, because this is where most of Gen Z's money goes. If you're renting a one-bedroom for around $1,900 a month, which is pretty normal in a lot of cities now, that's almost $23,000 a year. If you're lucky enough to split rent with roommates and get it down to $1,200, that's still over $14,000 a year. And none of that builds wealth. It just disappears. Meanwhile, homeowners around the same age and previous generations were locking in payments and building equity at the same time. That alone is a massive wealth gap before we even talk about anything else. Now add utilities. Older apartments usually mean higher electric bills, higher heating costs, worse insulation, and more random maintenance issues. It's not crazy for utilities to hit $100 to $300 a month in inefficient buildings. That's another $2,400 to $3,600 a year. Next is transportation. Most Gen Z workers can't live close to their jobs, so we commute. If you own a car, the real monthly cost is usually way higher than people expect. Car payment, insurance, gas, maintenance, repairs. When you add it all up, many people are paying between $700 and $1,000 a month just to get to work. That's $8,000 to $12,000 a year. And if you don't have a car and rely on public transportation, you often pay with time instead of money. Longer commutes, fewer job options, more exhaustion, which quietly limits income growth. Now food. Groceries that used to cost $80 now cost $120. Eating healthy costs even more. It's not uncommon for food spending to hit $400 to $600 a month. That's another $5,000 to $7,000 a year. Now layer in student loans. A lot of Gen Z grads are paying $300 to $500 a month. Some pay way more. That's $3,600 to $6,000 a year just servicing debt from trying to get a better job. Now add healthcare. Insurance premiums. Co-pays. Prescriptions. Random bills that somehow still show up even when you're insured. It's easily another few $1,000s a year for many people. And then come the fees. Overdraft fees when autopay hits before payday. Late fees when cash flow is tight. Interest charges when you have to use a credit card for emergencies. Subscription prices creeping up. Service charges everywhere. These might seem small individually, but together they can hit hundreds or even thousands per year. When you stack everything up, a pretty normal Gen Z budget can look like this. Rent, $14,000 to $23,000. Utilities, $2,400 to $3,600. Transportation, $8,000 to $12,000. Food, $5,000 to $7,000. Student loans, $3,600 to $6,000. Healthcare. And fees, $2,000 plus. That's already $35,000 to over $50,000 a year. After taxes. Most Gen Z don't even make that much before taxes. Which means the math never works. There's no room for savings. No room for investing. No buffer for emergencies. And when something goes wrong, because life always throws something at you, the poverty tax hits again through debt and interest. This is why so many people feel like they're doing everything right and still falling behind. Because the baseline cost of existing eats almost everything you earn. And here's the part people don't talk about. Once you're stuck in this cycle, escaping it becomes harder every year. You can't save enough to move somewhere cheaper. You can't take risks like switching careers or starting a business. You can't afford periods of lower income to skill up. You can't invest meaningfully. So the system quietly locks you into survival mode. Meanwhile, people who already have money experience the opposite. They buy homes and watch prices rise. They invest and watch money compound. They avoid fees. They pay cash for emergencies. Life gets cheaper and easier the richer you are, and harder and more expensive the poorer you are. That's the poverty tax in action. It's not one bill. It's the entire structure of modern life. And once you understand how big this hidden tax really is, you start to see why Gen Z feels like we're sprinting just to stand still. In the next part, I'm going to show you where all this money is flowing, who benefits from these rising costs, and why this system rewards extraction instead of stability. So once you see how much the poverty tax costs every year, the next question is obvious. Where does all that money go? Because it doesn't vanish. It moves upward, slowly, quietly, legally. And the system is built so that the more you struggle, the more profitable you become. Let's start with housing again. When rent keeps rising faster than wages, that extra money doesn't go into better buildings or better service. It goes to property owners, corporate landlords, and investment firms that now own huge chunks of the rental market. Single-family homes that used to be bought by normal families are now being purchased in bulk by investors. They turn them into rentals. They raise prices. They add fees. And because everyone needs somewhere to live, demand never disappears. So Gen Z ends up paying more every year while companies collect record profits. Your rent increase isn't bad luck. It's revenue growth. Now look at debt, student loans, credit cards, auto loans, medical bills. Every dollar of interest you pay is income for someone else. When interest rates rise, lenders make more money, but borrowers fall further behind. So inflation and rate hikes don't just make life harder for Gen Z, they make banks richer. Credit card companies post billions in profit, while young workers struggle to pay minimum balances. Hospitals charge insane prices and sell unpaid bills to collectors who profit off people's worst moments. Even car loans are structured so you pay massive interest up front before touching the principal. The longer you struggle, the more the system earns. Now look at everyday fees. Overdraft fees, late fees, account charges, service penalties. These don't exist to cover costs. They exist because people living paycheck to paycheck are more likely to trigger them. Banks know this. That's why overdraft programs are marketed as protection instead of what they really are, a way to charge you for being short on money. Most of those billions in fees come almost entirely from lower-income customers. Wealthy people rarely pay them, so even the financial system is designed to pull money from those with the least and funnel it upward. Then there's healthcare. Insurance companies deny claims while collecting premiums. Hospitals charge inflated prices because insurance will negotiate them down. But uninsured or underinsured people get stuck with massive bills. Pharmaceutical companies set prices as high as the market will tolerate, and when people can't pay, debt collectors step in. Every layer extracts value. Meanwhile, in other countries, healthcare is treated as a public service. Here it's treated as a business, and Gen Z pays the price. College works the same way. Loans allow schools to raise tuition endlessly. Students borrow more. Schools build nicer buildings. Administrators get higher salaries, and graduates spend decades paying it back. The system makes money whether you succeed or struggle. Actually, it makes more when you struggle. Now zoom out. Corporations are posting record profits year after year. Stock markets hit new highs. Executive pay keeps exploding. Meanwhile, wages for normal workers barely move. This isn't because companies can't afford to pay more. It's because the modern economy rewards keeping labor cheap. Every dollar not paid to workers becomes profit, and profit flows to shareholders, which are mostly wealthy households. So when you feel squeezed by rising prices, that pressure is literally turning into wealth for someone else. Higher rent means higher returns. Higher interest means higher profits. Higher fees mean more revenue. The poverty tax isn't a side effect. It's a feature, a system that transfers money upward every single month. That's why inequality keeps growing. That's why the middle class keeps shrinking. That's why Gen Z feels stuck even when working full-time. We're not just paying for life. We're funding someone else's wealth. And the craziest part is how normalized it all feels. Rising rent is called the market. High healthcare costs are called complicated. Student debt is called an investment in yourself. Bank fees are called responsibility. But when you step back, it's all the same story. Money flowing from people trying to survive to institutions designed to extract. This is why budgeting alone doesn't fix it. You can't spreadsheet your way out of structural extraction. You can be disciplined and still lose ground. You can work hard and still fall behind, because the baseline system is tilted. And once you understand who benefits from the poverty tax, you start to see why it's never seriously addressed. it's incredibly profitable. In the final part, I'm going to talk about what Gen Z can actually do inside this system to reduce the damage, avoid the worst traps, and slowly build stability even when the odds are stacked against us. Now I want to shift the conversation a little, because none of this is meant to make you feel hopeless. The goal isn't to scare you, it's to make the system visible. Because once you see how the poverty tax works, you can start reducing how much it takes from you. Not overnight, not in some get-rich-quick way, but in small moves that slowly give you breathing room. And breathing room is everything. The first place to fight back is banking. If your bank charges overdraft fees, maintenance fees, or random penalties, switch. There are tons of online banks and credit unions now that charge zero overdraft fees. Those fees alone drain hundreds of dollars a year from people living paycheck to paycheck. Set up low balance alerts so you know before autopay hits. And if you do get charged a fee, call and ask for it to be reversed. A lot of banks will do it if you just ask. Next is high interest debt. Credit card interest is one of the biggest poverty taxes in existence. If you have balances, call your provider and ask for a lower rate. It works more often than people think. If you qualify, look into balance transfer cards with 0% intro APR to buy yourself time without interest. Stacking up, avoid payday loans completely. They're designed to trap people in cycles that are almost impossible to escape. For student loans, income-based repayment plans can help keep payments manageable while you stabilize. They're not perfect, but they can prevent debt from crushing you early on. Now transportation. Run the real numbers on your car. Payment, insurance, gas, repairs, parking. In some cities, public transportation ends up cheaper even if it takes longer. And if you do need a car, reliability matters more than appearance. An older car that constantly breaks down costs more than a boring, dependable one. Housing is harder, but there are still ways to reduce the damage. Roommates might not be ideal, but splitting rent is one of the fastest ways to free up cash. Even a few $100s a month can completely change your ability to save. If there are housing assistance programs or wait lists where you live, get on them early. Some take years. For food, simple meal prep makes a massive difference. Rice, beans, chicken, eggs, frozen vegetables, oats. Not glamorous, but cheap and filling. Frozen produce is just as nutritious as fresh and usually way cheaper. Use digital coupons and shop sales when you can. Those savings add up over time. Now for saving. Even a small emergency fund prevents debt when life hits. Put savings in a high-yield savings account instead of a traditional bank that pays almost nothing. If your job offers a 401k match, try to contribute enough to get the full match. That's free money. And if you can invest even $5 or $10 a week, start. The habit matters more than the amount at first. Healthcare is another big one. If you're uninsured, look into Medicaid or community health clinics. A lot of people qualify without realizing it. If you get a medical bill you can't afford, call the billing department and ask about financial assistance or an itemized bill. Many hospitals will lower it. There are also prescription discount programs that can dramatically reduce costs. None of these things fix the system, but they reduce how much the system takes from you. And that reduction is what creates space to move forward. Because when you're not constantly in crisis mode, you can think long-term. You can plan, you can learn skills, you can look for better opportunities, you can invest in yourself, and that's how real progress happens. I also want to say this clearly. If you're struggling right now, it's not because you failed. You didn't misunderstand adulthood. You didn't mess up the formula. The formula changed. Our parents and grandparents lived in an economy where wages rose with costs, housing was affordable, college was cheaper, and stability was reachable. Gen Z entered a version of the system where everything got more expensive, and almost nothing got easier. That's not laziness. That's math. And until we stop blaming individuals and start recognizing the poverty tax built into everyday life, the problem will keep getting worse. But in the meantime, we still have to survive inside it. Reduce the traps. Protect your money. Build stability slowly. And don't beat yourself up for struggling in a system designed to extract from you. If this video helped you understand what's really happening, share your experience in the comments. What's the biggest poverty tax hitting you right now? Rent, debt, healthcare, food? Talk to your younger self in the comments and share anything you've learned that could help someone else. That's the kind of community I'm trying to build here. People helping each other navigate a broken system instead of pretending everything is fine. And if you found this useful, liking and subscribing genuinely helps this channel reach more Gen Z workers who need to hear this. I'm going to keep breaking down the real economic reality we're facing using real numbers and real life experience. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.